So one more concept is called the EC2 instance metadata. It's a very powerful one, and I think it's one of the least known features to developers, so it's really good, and when you discover it, you're like, wow, this is kind of awesome. So let's go through this. It basically allows your EC2 instances to learn about themselves, so they don't have to use an IAM role for that purpose. And that kind of makes sense, right? Your EC2 instances should be able to know who they are. And the URL for it, and this is something you should remember, is 169.254.169.254/latest/meta minus data. And this is very, very important. This IP 169.254.169.254 is basically an internal IP to AWS. It will not work from your computer. It will only work from your EC2 instances. And using this, you can retrieve the IAM role name from the metadata, but you cannot retrieve the IAM policy, right? The only way to test the IAM policy is to use the policy simulator or the dry run options, but we cannot retrieve the content of the IAM policy using this URL. Just to remember, the metadata is the info about the EC2 instance that we'll see in a second, whereas the user data was to launch a script of the EC2 instance, okay? They're very, very different concepts, and we'll be able to access both. So let's practice and see what we can do with this EC2 instance metadata. So here I am in my EC2 instance, and the first thing I want to do is curl. So curl is to query a URL, and I will do a curl on 169.254.169.254. And what we get out of it is a bunch of numbers and dates. This is basically the version of the API call that you're using. And what I said is that for now, we really don't care about the API call version, and we'll just use /latest. Now, when I run /latest, let's just go right here, /latest, and you make sure to always add the last slash. We get two different fields, dynamic and metadata. And actually right here as well, you probably don't see it. That's the third one, I'm sorry. It is user data. So as you can see from this, you're able to retrieve the metadata and the user data. We're not interested into the user data right now. We're interested into the metadata. So let's go ahead and add metadata. Always never forget to add the slash at the very end. From this, we get a bunch of different options. We get AMI ID, launch index, hostname, IAM, etc., etc. Anytime it ends with a slash, that means that there is more to it. For example, IAM, there's a slash, so there is more to it. When it doesn't end with a slash, that means it's a value. So if we look, for example, at the instance ID, we'll do curl instance ID, and what we get out of it is my instance ID. Pretty awesome, right? We could do the same with the local IPv4. So local IPv4, and we get the local IPv4 of our EC2 instance. So what you noticed here is that we haven't been authorized through an IAM role to get this information. This comes for free. Any EC2 instance without an IAM role can request all this information. And it is very important for you to learn to navigate through it. It's quite helpful when you do automation. So for example, if I do hostname, I get the hostname. And if I do IAM, as we'll see in a second, we'll have more values to look at, for example, info. And there is this very one called security credentials. So I'll just give you a little insider about how things work. Basically, when you attach an EC2 instance role and you type security credentials, you're going to get the role name, which is right here, my first EC2 role. So my first EC2 role. And what we get out of this is an access key, a secret access key, and a token. And so behind the scenes, when you attach an IAM role to an EC2 instance, the way for it to perform API calls is that it queries this whole URL right here, which it gets an access key ID, a secret access key, and a token. And it turns out that this is a short-lived credentials. So as you can see, there's an expiration date in here, and that's usually something like 1 hour. And so the idea is that your EC2 instance gets temporary credentials through the IAM role that it gets attached to it. So this is basically how the IAM roles work on EC2 instances. I know that not many people tell you about this, but I just wanted to pique your curiosity and show you the full URL. But again, what you should remember is that using this metadata, not user data, metadata, and this URL right here, 169.254, etc., you can get information about a lot of stuff from your EC2 instance. So I hope that was helpful, and I will see you in the next lecture.